This is Lisiabi, Lightning Lisiabi, and you're watching Boxing Domination.
It's Mohim for Boxing Domination, and today I'm joined by three-weight bare knuckle boxing world champion Barrie Jones and former professional boxer joining me from Thailand. How's it going, champ?
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Lovely.
obviously you've got your massive fight against Johnny Tello on Saturday night in Thailand. In your last out in London, actually, you actually stopped who's arguably the greatest bare knuckle boxing fighter amongst many people in Jimmy Sweeney. What's this test like against Johnny Tello for you right now in a different country, a different environment?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Tello, but with Sweeney, I obviously knew uh how he fought or whatever. I haven't seen so much of Tello. It's hard with the conditions out here. It was quite hot. So I've done a lot of training this week to try and adapt to the weather, the conditions. And it's always dangerous when you're up against someone that you don't really you're not too sure of. So I've got to be at my best.
And of course, I know you're a former pro boxer yourself. You've had more than 30 pro fights. Of course, when a pro boxer normally enters in the world of BKB or bare knuckle boxing, as I'll say, the advantages are always there. The striking is always ruthless, like yourself. James Lilly, who's a former opponent of yourself in boxing. Talk to me about the transition that you've had from professional boxing to bare knuckle. So, what's that been like for you?
Well, so far it's been good for me. Obviously I'm 8-0 and I've won all my fights quite comfortably. But my first fight it didn't last long enough really, so it was hard to, it's like when you're blocking punches, you haven't got no gloves on, so you can feel every punch. So you can't be taking a lot of punches in these fights, and within boxing you can defend with your gloves, and it was quite difficult. It's not for everyone, because every punch hurts. You know,
Yeah, and I know from your boxing days, you've actually fought Kell Brook. I believe Kell Brook was 14-0 at the time when he fought you, but you guys fought for the British title. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I believe it was 2008 you fought him.
yeah.
Of course, you've got experience in professional boxing. You've got experience now in bare knuckle boxing as well. But in comparison, though, I mean, did you think you was gonna be this successful in BKB because you're super successful? I mean, like in my eyes, I see you as the really the conqueror of BKB right now. Every man you've got in
Um,
front of you, stop them.
well, when I first got into it, didn't really, I didn't, I to be honest, I thought I'd have a couple of fights, maybe win a title, and then that would have been it. Obviously, the more I got into it, and then I knew that Sweeney was the best, and he's the greatest fighter of all time. So it was obviously my weight. So I was like, that was the fight I was chasing. Obviously, I had to get a couple more wins. My win out in America it helped me a lot. And then they give me the shot, and fair play.
Okay, and a lot of fighters normally, for example, I mean, I know it's probably not a problem for you, but of course, with the age factor, it can be an issue sometimes because you are in your late 30s, I believe. I believe you're about 35, 36,
27 then.
37.
37 now.
Wow. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So does it ever come to a moment where you feel like maybe the time is coming to the end? Like, what's your end goal for bare knuckle boxing right now? I mean, yeah, your ambitions and
Yeah.
plans with career right now.
Well, I don't really know. I take every fight, each fight as it goes. I wouldn't say I want any more fights. I don't know because this fight could go badly for me. And but I the main target I had when I first started getting into it was to fight Sweeney, and then after that it's, it's not a lot that I'm interested in at the moment. But I've obviously had a chance to come out here to Thailand, which is a great opportunity. So you know, I couldn't. I had to accept.
Yeah, and like of course fighting in Thailand is a massive thing because there's fighters like Sanchai, Buikaw, so many of these Muay Thai greats also come from a country like Thailand, and it's really known for its unbelievable fights that they deliver. I mean, is this your first time in Thailand, and what's the experience been like so far?
Yeah, it's my first time. So far experience has been it's been a bit quiet because try to keep a bit of a I've been doing a little bit of training, try and keep quiet. I don't want to do nothing crazy this week, but it's a beautiful place, like, and so far it's been great.
Yeah, I can really imagine because I remember speaking to Jim, and then Jim was telling me, it's super hot in there, which, I'm not really surprised because it is in South Asia, so it's definitely going to be hot. Well, I don't know if it's in South Asia, but somewhere in Asia. But with Barry, one thing I do want to know is, fighters normally have a lot of problems. For example, not every fighter. I spoke to some BKB fighters, and some BKB fighters have told me that before a fight, sometimes when they feel nervous, they'll sort of like to spend time on their own rather than talking to anyone else. Some people like to go to the toilet, for example, just constantly go for a pee. I don't know if that's very common in fighters, but just say you're getting called. Someone comes into the changing room and says, Barry, in 20 minutes, you're going to make a ring walk. What's your prep right before that ring walk?
Well, usually in the changing room, that's when it's starting to get real. Then last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you kind of know it's on. Then so you switch on. I'm not great to be around because I like to be on my own. I like to pace back and forth just to think. But then once you're getting in the ring ready, like kind of get yourself prepared, then I'm ready for it then.
Mm. I mean, and also, I know I've asked quite a lot of questions in this short interview so far, but in terms of your career, for example, I've already said 32 pro fights as a professional boxer, 8 pro fights as a bare knuckle fighter, and 79 fights as an amateur with a very impressive 72 wins. I mean, your career has sort of gone on for a very, quite a long time. I mean, you've had more than 120 fights in total. If my maths is correct, you've had about 120 or 130 fights in total. I mean, can you just tell me how you got into boxing and, like, did you contact Jim for BKB, or did the offer just come about one day on Facebook? Like, how did the journey of
Uh,
BKB start?
Um, I think I was scrolling through Facebook one day. I seen a boy I knew I used to box with years ago was doing it. I got in touch with him. Like I said, what's that all about, really? So give me another guy's name. So I asked him to contact Jim and Joe. Within I think a few hours they were like, yeah, okay. So I was like, oh, I didn't really know where I let myself in for. But yeah, ever since the first fight, they've been great to me. Like, and they've treated me well. They give me loads of opportunities, and it's been a good journey so far.
So, in terms of the BKB, right? So obviously, you have so many of these new YouTube events happening as well, which is, I think it's quite bonkers of a lot of these YouTube events happening, but it's also helping. There's a certain fighters in the YouTube scene which I must say I do have respect for right now in terms of Jake Paul, who's helping some UFC fighters and even some boxers like Amanda Serrano get better pay. But I recently was in talks with a few people from some of the promotions, right? There were actually some boxing promoters as well, and they were talking about, and I personally find this quite ludicrous personally, but they were talking about having a bare knuckle celebrity event. For me, that sounds really ruthless. I think, you know, doing boxing, unlicensed boxing with YouTubers is already quite dangerous enough, but bare knuckle is quite extreme when so it comes to that. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, what do you think personally about that?
Um, I I think that's quite silly, really. It's hard enough when you know what you're doing, and perhaps they won't get hurt as much because they're not very skillful. I don't know, but I wouldn't unless you really know what you're doing. I wouldn't get into it. Like
Nah,
it's
same.
it's not easy. Like
Yeah. Anyway, I'm so sorry for that very silly question. It's just I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
okay.
Um, Obviously every person in boxing or bare knuckle boxing always has a fighter that they look up to, and then they sort of get into boxing through that. I had David Hay, Lennox Lewis, Manny Pacquiao, Tyson, and even Welsh boxer Barrie Jones, who was actually, well, Barrie Jones, the former,
Yeah.
the former WBO champion. And of course, in BKB, it's you. I mean, yourself, Dan Chapman, Tony Lafferty, Carl Hobley, lovely guys. But I do want to ask you, growing up, what boxer did you sort of like look at and say, maybe I want to be like this guy when I'm kind of older?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was like, I loved Prince Nazim Hamed, Chris Eubank, all them kind of fighters. Loved them. Even though I'm nothing like them, but I loved watching them. They were my favorites. On Eubank, I like Lennox Lewis, I liked all them, like Calzaghe.
Yeah.
They're my kind of fighters.
And speaking of that, of course, there's two more questions which I'm going to quickly just cut through this. So Conor Ben in the boxing world failed the drug test, and it was a drug test against Chris Eubank Jr. As you're aware of. Eubank Jr. only had a £3 rehydration clause, so he cannot go above 160 on the night. So he'll be 157, cannot go above 160 on the night. Conor Ben recently brought a statement by the WBC saying he's innocent. What's your thoughts on the take? I mean, do you know much about it, or what do you think?
No, to be honest, people have asked me about it, and I think I haven't done enough research into it to comment on it really. But I think if you do need to take stuff like that to compete, I don't think you should be doing it really. You're obviously not good enough, or you don't think you're good enough, or it's cheating basically, innit? But I don't follow it as much as I used to boxing, so I couldn't really tell you. I wouldn't know a lot about it. But I think like anybody who's got caught cheating should be banned. Like so, seriously, like.
And just the last question. This is the question I should be asking Jim personally. But me and Jim, we were meant to have an interview, but of course, it kind of fell through because we kind of had the wires crossed. We got the wrong timing off both sides.
Yeah.
In terms of boxing, for example, you have drug testing, but I've never asked a BKB fighter, is there drug testing in BKB, and what's the precautions like in BKB? I was just wondering.
Yeah, it's we've had tests, we've had blood tests and things like that. The medicals is we go see doctors, there's paramedics there and all that, so it's all good. Like they're all at least safety first. If we could have like on title fights more drug testing maybe or whatever, like and but that's up to them, innit, so that's all I really know
Yeah.
about that really.
Anyway, that's the interview wrapped with three-division bare knuckle boxing world champion and former Welsh boxing champion, Barrie Jones.
Thank you.